I started to become an architect is actually, I would say 40 years ago. That will be the beginning of the story. At that time, there's no architecture course in Malaysia. So there's no concept of architecture. I'm more like a kampong boy during that time when I loved drawing, I love all those things, and then I have an uncle from Singapore. So he said, well, if you're an artist, you're going to get rich only when you die. I don't think he have any idea of architecture as well, but what he told me is that the closest would be architecture. Fast forward a bit, I went to Sydney, Australia. So I took art, and suddenly I realized architecture is totally something else. It's more like bigger than just art or science or what have you. But so it's one thing lead to another. So it's almost by default, if you like, it's probably accidental architects. How I approach architecture would be where we are, meaning our climate, our culture. That will be the basis starting point for what I do in architecture. As an architect, I don't think I create anything in vacuum. It definitely has certain precedent to it, meaning things that happened before me. And for me, the most influential probably will be the Malay traditional kampung house in the past. And sometimes you do have to go overseas to appreciate your own country a bit more. My first thesis, when I go to Australia, then not so much you learn from that country. Yes, you do, but you probably look at your own country in a different light. Let's go for our Twin Tower. I think it's a beautiful tower as they are, but if I've got a second chance to actually redo that, either I add on to it or whatever, I will make them into two vertical garden that you can actually have green that's sort of going up, you can almost cycling up or what have you, but the similar height. But this is, imagine when you are high up at that level, your perspective is different, but instead of two pristine tower, it will be like two huge giant trees, sort of like in the middle of KL. So it's like an antithesis, if you like sort of the opposite of what statement that, you know, like we now very much we want nature, reclaim city for the sake of green. I would say there are various, but I would say that I tend to look at literature as my source of, like, for example, to get inspiration or whatever. I always think that architecture came about is more for how human we are, how close we are to our community. Through reading, that actually you get to know things that is not you, things that about other people, but is still related to the entire community. Going back to the point that we are talking about literature and things like that, I think once they get all the technical knowledge that they need for architecture, probably the first 3 years, they should focus on things that is not architecture. Meaning, learn about your community, learn about the climate, learn about literature, go into liberal arts a bit, learn about sociology, learn about human history. I think that have a more important long-term impact that for them to come out with new idea, new way of looking at things. I'm Architect Wooi. This is Architects in Focus.